You know, gotta ask, because everybody else has been saying the same thing. Will the defense take a step back this season without Myles Garrett? Well, I'll tell you why you may want to rethink that thought process. Because this defense is more talented than you think. And with that, we're going to jump right into it. Because we got some stuff going here. Now, once again, before we get going, I want to give a thank you out to our friends at Stathead. Because once again, they come through in a big way. And with this situation, we're going to be looking at Jerry Verse, the new Browns defensive end, versus their old defensive end, Myles Garrett. Now, this is a thing that you have to look at. With Myles Garrett's a dinosaur. He's a freak of nature. Nobody's ever going to say Jerry Verse is as good as Myles Garrett. I mean, stats back that up. 37 sacks over the last 2 years, because this is 2024, 2025. As opposed to 12 for Jared Verse. Solo tackles, Myles Garrett's everywhere, all the time. Forced fumbles, they're both good forcing a fumble. Verse got an extra one there over the last couple years. Pro Bowls, same amount of Pro Bowls. Obviously, Myles better at the Defensive Player of the Year, and obviously first-time Pro Bowler. So, come straight on down. And I want, because we all know, sack-wise, Myles is going to be heavier. He's probably the greatest sack artist in the history of the game. Since he's always in the backfield, his tackles for loss kind of dwarf Jared Verse. Now, passes deflected, this is an interesting one. Verse has one more, which is, not a whole lot. AV, I had to look that up because, as I said last time, I didn't know what it was. It's basically value over a career, and Myles has been around for a while. And Jared Verse is just starting himself out. So I'm gonna take that as an accumulative stat. Doesn't really matter in the context. So we come on down. Advanced defense. Pass coverage. You can see when it comes to average depth of target, we're going to go ahead and bring that in there so you guys can look at that. Average depth of target, Myles Garrett is always behind the line when he is guarding a defender, whereas Jared Verse is always around the line. But at the same time, that does show, especially total air, it's not a lot of yards, but it shows Verse is probably better when it comes to working the passing lanes around the line of scrimmage. Myles was always rushing the passer, so that's nothing new. That's not gonna, it's not a surprise to anybody. But this right here, the hurries. The QB hurries. There's your definition. Thank you once again to the guys at Sports-Reference. This is a great tool to have. 27 for Myles. Jared Verse had 25. Now they say times brought on a blitz of the QB. Well, that's not accurate because Myles was always blitzing. Where Jared Verse 68 times. But every time Myles lined up, it was a designed blitz. Now, he might not have gotten very far depending on what the play was against him, but you knew he was coming after the quarterback. I mean, that's kind of what he does. So you knew it was going to happen. Even if it officially wasn't happening. In Verse, as we see, with the A-dot was around the line more, where Myles was always behind it. And that's in pass coverage. And with the pass rush and everything, same basic thought process. Now, missed tackle percentage, Jared Verse missed more tackles. I don't think anybody's going to say that is a good thing. That is a horrible number right there for Jared Verse. 21 missed tackles. But once again, Myles Garrett was rarely in position to make tackles when it came to outside runs. In fact, a lot of the outside runs were to Myles' side because they knew he was going to be crashing down on the quarterback. So he didn't get that opportunity. But we're not going to get upset about that because Myles broke the sack record last year, and he's had, as we saw, massive amounts of sacks over the last couple of years, 50-some sacks. So we're not going to get upset about that. But this is, I'm not really into the defensive snaps and stuff at this point with this. What I want to look at here in this situation is the tackles. Because over the last 2 years, pressure rate, I think Jared Verse has, I think it's fewer than 10 fewer pressures than Myles Garrett. Huge, huge number. But I also want to look at the tackle rate. You see this right here? 124 for Verse, 107 for Myles on the combined tackles. Well, Myles has more for a loss. If you add them up, that would be 124 combined tackles and 107. Verse, and that goes to what I was saying a few seconds ago with Verse being there against the run where Myles isn't, because Myles is always crashing down on the quarterback. So this upcoming season, simply because Verse is better when it comes to gap integrity, which comes to gap discipline, the Browns' running game, especially to the outside, should be better, should be more complete. Now, there are other reasons that that should be the case, but that is the case for the time being. And obviously, for you fantasy guys, unless you have defensive players on your fantasy team, you get no fantasy points. And I do apologize for that. But when it comes to gap integrity, when it comes to working against the run, that's where you're going to see the big difference. Because, yes, Jared Verse is going to do that better than Myles Garrett did. And the adverse effect of that is going to be because Jared Verse can get a lot of pressures. He just didn't get home as much as Myles did. What we're going to see is a little bit more work from his running mates. There were a few times when Alex Wright, who has stepped up in a leadership role since Myles was traded, Mason Graham and Malik Collins would get into the backfield, but Myles would have already gotten the sack, or he would have spooked the quarterback into getting rid of the ball, where the quarterback may have tried to outrun somebody like a Mason Graham or Malik Collins, or even an Alex Wright or Isaiah McGuire. So look for an increased stat line when it comes to sacks from those guys. Also, I expect Mason Graham to come in adding a few pounds, not the kid pounds where he's got a little bit of belly fat, but I mean adult pounds where he's not going to battle through several games with bruised ribs or cracked ribs like he did last year. And Malik Collins, once he gets off the PUP list, Malik Collins is going to be Malik Collins. He's going to create some problems. He's going to create some havoc. And I think when he got injured last year, Mason Graham, he had a little bit of a hard time. And I think that showed that he did need to add weight. He did need to add some, adult muscle. And I also think that he grew up a little bit there because he didn't have Malik Collins to kind of make things easier on him. It was kind of forced on him. So I think Mason Graham is going to come in looking a lot better this year. And for the number 5 overall pick, he better come in looking better, because if you're taking number 5, you better be looking to be a Pro Bowler for a lot of years, or else that pick is going to look bad coming out. Not to say he's going to be a bad player. I think he's going to be a very good player. But for the number 5 overall pick, that comes with some expectations. So I think the supporting cast around Jared Verse is going to be improved. And I believe as far as the run game goes, I think the Cleveland defense is going to be much improved. Simply because Jared Verse will be better at holding his gap, and he will be more disciplined. And I don't think that is something to be sneezed at. I think that's something we're going to have to look at heavily when regarding this defense. And if the other guys improve, if Alex Wright takes that step, he did get his contract extension last year, and so far his attitude has been shown, I'm going to take the next step. I'm going to be more of a leader. I'm going to show that I was worth that contract, and maybe because he did get a 2-year extension, and I believe that extension starts this year, he step up and say, I'm worthy of another extension. Isaiah McGuire has always been solid. I think he will continue to be solid, but the improvement of Graham and Alex Wright will improve the front seven. And I think Wright has a real possibility to get 10 sacks this year. Now, Myles Garrett won't be there. And you also have to look at, when you're looking at the back seven, because Jared Verse was Rookie of the Year in 2024. Carson Schlesinger was Defense Rookie of the Year last year. So now you have the last two Defense Rookie of the Years on your defense. And you can put that with a revamped I'm not going to say revamped because, well, I did say revamped, but I'm not going to emphasize revamped because it's really just one player. And you got Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, who's going to be playing both safety positions and nickel and dime. If he starts at the nickel and dime spot with his size, 6'4", 200 pounds, he's going to help not only the outside run, but he's also going to put pressure on any quarterback that's trying to use that underneath, because he's going to be able to guard those underneath receivers a lot better than a smaller guy with less reach. So, and if you put that into consideration with Denzel Ward, one of the best cover corners in the NFL over the last 5 years, his new contract, this year he's going to be making a little over $16 million a year. But next year, his new contract kicks in, 2-year extension, $62 million, 52.3 guaranteed, 31.1 annual. And this year he's only going to be making 16. So that contract's going to come into effect when the salary cap goes up. So they are still going to have the relief from Myles Garrett's contract no longer being on the books. So I got to ask, hey, is the Browns defense really going to take a big step back from being a top 5 defense down to maybe a top 10 or top 12? I think overall we're going to have to look at that and say, I don't think so. So before people really start on this, the Cleveland Browns defense is going to take a major step back, they got to think, is the run game going to improve? Are the young guys going to get better? What is that impact going to look like? And I just showed you. Will the pass rush take a step back? Probably so. Will it take the step back I think people are thinking it's going to? I don't think so. Because I think other people will step up. And Jared Verse, as I said, pressure-wise, he didn't get home the way Myles Garrett did. But he was only about 10 pressures back over the last 2 years. So, somebody's going to take some of that production. Maybe, I seriously doubt they take all that production. But they're going to take some of that production, because that's 33 sacks. I don't think Collins, Graham, or Wright, or McGuire, any of those guys are going to take that much production, so there probably will be a drop-off in sacks. But as far as putting pressure on the quarterback, I don't do a drop. The big question is, will the improvement of the run game, which I expect to happen with Jared Verse manning the outside and McNeil-Warren helping push that down, will that be enough to offset? I think that's a question you got to ask. And that being said, remember, we're looking at hitting the like and subscribe button. That subscribe button should be right over here. And maybe watch another one of our videos, which should be right over here. And that being said, remember to like, subscribe, and remember, this shot's on us.